Welcome back, fellas. So, a new Tekkaman Blade video. This time focusing on the little device that made the whole tech system work. The Tech Crystal. This video is more of a follow-up to the Tech System Explained video I posted a while back. That video focused on the overall system, but I think that the Tech Crystal needs a bit further explanation. The Tech Crystal is a portable computation device that is stored within the tech system user's body somehow. At least one of the things to come out of that god-awful sequel was that scene where Blade's crystal materialized within his hand. So, while acting as the key to the whole system, it is stored within the tech network of its user's body when unneeded. Since there's not really any technical detail sources from outside of the series, we could only follow what we saw from the anime and use the usual trends in other science fiction shows like it. But that's part of the fun in science fiction. Now then, when released from the Tech System Pod after the Tekkaman conversion process, the user is issued a Tech Crystal to access the system. But as stated in the previous video, it's just the key to the engine. A majority of the functions are most likely installed on the tech network embedded within the system user. When the passcode is said, a field is generated that envelops the user, at which point high-energy particles fill the field mold, which is in the shape of the user's tech crystal, which begins constructing the tech armor and weapons of its user. The field dissipates with the sound of a crystal shattering, and a fully armed and armored Tekkaman is ready to rock. Even when disengaging the armor, the tech crystal field reappears before reversion to human form. This just means to say that the field never truly disappears. As long as the user is in his Tekkaman configuration, the tech crystal field is just slightly out of phase from normal space. So it doesn't interfere with combat, with the exception of the crash intrude attack, where the field is used as a scaffold for fermion particles and accelerated by the Tekkaman's propulsion system in a high-speed ramming attack. This ability to phase in and out of space is the reason Blade can exit the Blue Earth without the high-energy tech field destroying the ship's hull. So, in other words, a Tekkaman, or rather the tech system itself, relies on generating, maintaining, and manipulating their tech field for a majority of its intended combat applications. There's another instance where it was seen that the tech crystal field doesn't truly disappear as long as its user is in their Tekkaman mode. This is when the anti-tech system rifle called the interference spectrum device in the anime was used against Sword during the final battle. From the looks of it, the rifle fired some sort of energy-based projectile that tried to interfere with the out-of-phase tech field. Maybe like trying to send an external signal that was similar to the signal, which was usually sent when saying that the user wants to disengage the tech set. But this caused Sword's tech system to temporarily stall because of some fail-safe feature that didn't verify a secondary confirmation from the user to disengage the transformation. Which is why it didn't fully work, and Sword was still able to move, even if she was slightly hindered. After all, it's not as if the Space Knights could grasp the entirety of the tech system just by analyzing Blade for a few short months. And the Tekkamen themselves were only given the necessary information about their tech system for their intended purpose as commanders of Radom forces and frontline fighters if need be. But there was something else that showed up in the Sword versus Balzac fight as well. When she fought Balzac after he fired the anti-tech system rifle while it didn't cancel the tech set. It looked like it interfered with the tech armor's integrity since the Technosuit's fermion gun was dealing significant damage to Sword. Normally, a Tekkaman could easily tank hits from the fermion gun's level of output without issue, but this was not the case in this instance. It just goes to show the significance of the tech crystal itself, as the tech system field generator and the system's computational core. The tech crystal is the key mechanism most likely responsible for performing the complex calculations that manipulate the generated tech field to assemble the light wave particle composite material that the tech armor and its systems are composed of, as well as overseeing the functioning of the systems after transformation. So, just to summarize, its only functions are for transformation and systems regulation after transformation. But because of these vital functions, it's a key weak point to target, as seen earlier in the series with Dagger implementing the interference spectrum crystals. Now, these are kind of interesting. In order to neutralize Blade as a threat to the Rawdam invasion, Dagger seeded the orbital ring with these interference spectrum crystals, creating a dead zone for Blade from a transformation perspective. It's funny how he needed to transform first before activating them. Otherwise, it would probably also affect his own crystal. So, most likely, all Tekkamen are vulnerable to these interference spectrum crystals. It's just not much of an issue for the enemy Tekkamen, since they usually remain in their Tekkamen configuration most of the time anyway. So, how these things probably work is that when activated, it introduces a bunch of noise data to the surroundings, where it interferes with the tech crystal's spatial and environmental data collection and calculations during establishing the tech field for transformation. But because of this junk data, the tech crystal cannot make sense of it and forcibly aborts the tech field setup, even when the field setup is at a stage where it's already generating large amounts of energy within the established tech field. To move on to the tech armor construction phase, the calculation errors caused by the interference spectrum crystals result in a loss of the tech system field integrity, and all of the energy escapes in a violent explosion. Those sharp points that damage Blade within the field is probably something the junk data emissions from the interference spectrum crystals made, using the early assembling of the light particle wave material that would have been used in the tech armor. I'm not sure if that was an unintended byproduct of the interference spectrum crystals, or if that could have been programmed beforehand into the interference spectrum crystals, and it was just Dagger's mischief with the goal to inflict as much pain on Blade as possible. It's doubtful that the tech crystal was designed to abort the transformation process once it started, but the system probably would risk the aborting and damaging of the crystal over the loss of the user. After the first failed transformation, the crystal was seen with fractures running along it, but it still looked functional. You'd have to wonder if there wasn't any long-term effects because of the damage it sustained, but it was completely shattered after the second interrupted attempt, after which it was reconstructed using synthetic materials that were as close to the original material of the tech crystal as possible and stored within Pegas, both as a means to jerry-rig the transformation and to provide a shielded space for the transformation to occur, so the Rawdam couldn't use the interference spectrum crystals in the future to hinder Blade. The interference spectrum crystals are interesting for another reason. This is clearly an anti-Tekkaman weapon. So does that mean that the Rawdam have dealt with rogue Tekkamen before? Or was this weapon designed to fight against a race that had a similar weapon system to the Tekkaman system? Or, like I mentioned in my tech system video, maybe the tech system was adopted by the Rawdam from a conquered race, and this weapon was something they devised to deal with the tech system's original creators, before they conquered them. The Rawdam then adopted the tech system due to its high combat potential as a spoil of conquest. These are all cool points that could have been explored in a proper sequel, so it's too bad. Another reason I think the Rawdam didn't pioneer the tech system is because it's too different from their biotechnological foundations. There's no way that a single civilization could run two foundationally different technology lineages simultaneously. It's even more unlikely because these things are sentient parasites that latch onto a host. It's essentially invasion of the body snatchers. But with that said, the tech field generated by the crystal seems to be the point of attack for any anti-tech system weapon. The interference spectrum crystals targeted the field to abort the transformation, and the anti-tech system rifle targets the field after a transformation. Now, let's move on to a different topic involving the tech crystals, and that's their color. I was playing around with the topic of this video for a while, and I got a funny theory. I'll share it with you guys now. So, in the anime, only 3 distinct tech crystal colors were seen. Blade's tech crystal is green, his sister. Miyuki's tech crystal is pink, while all of the evil Tekkamen had red-colored tech crystals. Outside of the anime, I think it was just to say who was good from who was evil. But talking within the story itself, the first question is, what do the colors signify? In the first case, maybe the tech crystal colors indicate some kind of specialization in their Tekkaman modes. Like heavy close range attacker, long range fighter, high speed lightweight fighter or something. But since there's nothing much we could determine from the lack of details and supplemental material released for the anime, unfortunately that question will have to be shelved. But on another note, the fact that only the two Tekkamen that were not under Radam control had different colored crystals compared to the others suggests another reason that maybe the red tech crystals were more of a warning sign, like an indicator of mental contamination. Because even in that dismal sequel, all Tekkamen not under Radam control had different colored crystals. It reminded me of Star Wars, and I don't mean that weird tension between Blade and his sister. I'm referring to the Kyber crystals used in the Jedi's lightsabers had different colors, except for the red ones used by the Sith, which were either artificially produced or made red when a natural Kyber crystal was quote unquote bled by infusing it with dark side force energy. Where the Sith were suffering mental contamination by the power of the dark side of the force. I know it's a bit of a stretch, but there are some similarities. What do you guys think? This could further vouch for the Radam not being the tech system's originators. But since this feature did not affect the performance of the tech system in combat, the Radam didn't see any need to interfere with it. Moving on. Now it seems as though if a Tekkaman had his crystal destroyed, it looks like they could use someone else's tech crystal. But whether they could access the full system or just the tech field generation function is unknown, since the only instance of this case is where Blade took his brother's crystal after he passed away. But still, this would be quite a feature in terms of combat redundancy. When thinking of cases where if a Tekkaman who lost his crystal due to enemy tactics chanced upon a crystal of an incapacitated or deceased Tekkaman, they could still transform and rejoin the fight. Now, a new question. If Blade were to use Evil's crystal to tech set, would he transform into his brother's Tekkaman mode? Most likely not. There's a good chance the information for the Tekkaman modes of tech system users are stored within the network embedded into their bodies. To break it down, a bit of communication takes place between the main components of the tech system when their users initiate a tech set. Like with any complex system, after they say the passcode, the tech crystal communicates with the embedded tech network, where the tech network relays instructions for its user's Tekkaman mode to the crystal. The crystal then generates the tech field and constructs the armor and weapons based on those schematics relayed to it from the tech network within the user. But unfortunately, there's no further details on this, so we'll need to end this question here. Let's jump to a new question. In that horrible sequel, it was shown that Blade has a brand new crystal, identical to his original one. So the new question is, where did he get it? There's no way that's his original one, since that one was completely shattered in the final battle and was lost to space. So the most likely explanation is that a Tekkaman can be issued a replacement crystal through a tech system pod. It's no news that Earth would be experimenting with the Radam technology after the first invasion ended, since they were able to develop and manipulate the system for their own Tekkamen. But in my opinion, I think it would have had a deeper meaning if in the sequel, he was using his brother's crystal to transform. Like a reminder of what he lost, and at the same time a final gift and memento of his greatest adversary as the final victor of their rivalry, which further fuels his rage and hatred against the Radam. I know I said this earlier in the video, but it just goes to show the wasted potential in this series. All of these points and a lot more that the writers could have created and explored to expand the lore of Tekkaman Blade. Such a shame. I think I'll end the video here. Till next time. Bye.